Chapter 17 of The Plum and the Golden Vase. Chongzhen version of the embroidered portrait. You impeached Admiral Yang over the matter and Li Pinger promised to marry Zhang Zhushan. The poem says, "If I had known that you loved resting, I would not have tolerated jealousy. Whoever showed deep kindness has now turned out to be a mistake. Sleeping in sorrow at dawn, sitting in a golden boudoir at dusk, weeping, only the soul in the dream still speaks and means the same as before." It is said that on May 20th, Shuifu Zhou Xiaowei's birthday, Simon King received a 5-star investment, 2 handkerchiefs, neatly dressed, riding a big white horse, followed by 4 young men, and went to his house to pay his birthday. During the banquet, there were also a group of military officers including Jia Tixing, Zhang Tuanlian, Jing Qianhu, and He Qianhu, who were drinking, playing drums, and performing operas. Diane took the clothes and returned to Malay's house. When I arrived in Japan, I rode to pick him up again. When I walked to the intersection of West Street, I bumped into Mother Feng and asked, "Where are you going to, Mother Feng?" Mother Feng said, "Your second mother asked me to come to invite your father. Hire a silversmith to tidy up your hair and face. It's ready. I'll send it to your father today. Your mother-in-law is still talking to your father." Diane said, "My father is having a drink with Mr. Zhou in the Garrison Mansion today. I'll pick you up now. Just tell Dad when I get there." Feng's mother said, "If you're tired, just say it. Your mother is waiting." This Diane rode straight to the Garrison Mansion. While the officials were drinking, Diane walked to Simon's celebration banquet and said, "When I was returning to Ms. house, I bumped into Feng's mother at the street corner. My second mother sent me a messenger to say that the hired silversmith has sent me some money. Please invite me. Look, I still want to talk to you." After hearing this, Simon King stood up, and Zhou was willing to let him go. He blocked the door and held a giant cup to persuade him. Simon King said, "My lord, I would rather have a drink. I have some trivial matters, and I can't indulge as much as I want. Please forgive me. Please forgive me." So he drank it all in one gulp, resigned from the garrison, mounted his horse, and went to Li Pingera's house. The woman continued, and after the tea was finished, Simon King told Diane to go back to Ms. house and pick him up tomorrow. Dan has gone. Li Pinger asked Ying Shuner to take out the head and face from the Yingshan box and look at it with Simon King. Huang Henggang looked like a flame and had a good appearance. He took it away and waited for the ceremony on the 24th. He was allowed to marry on the 4th day of the lunar month. The woman was filled with joy and quickly arranged for wine to be brought in, so she and Simon King could have a good drink. After eating once, I asked the maid to wipe the mat clean in the room. The 2 of them were in the gauze tent, burning incense, blue and musk deer, spreading out their quilts, taking off their clothes, folding their legs side by side, drinking and teasing. For a long time, the spring scenery spread across my eyebrows, and my lustful heart rippled. Simon King first had a chat with the woman, and then, taking advantage of the wine, he sat on the bed, made the woman lie down on the mat, and played the flute with him. But see, there is no bamboo, no silk, no stone. The sound of flesh cannot be heard. The tassels and green gauze hang down, and the palace and merchant horns cannot be distinguished. A little cherry is about to bloom, and the slender fingers move frequently, deeply swallowing and vomiting. The 2 lovers are infatuated, and they don't feel the harmony and deliciousness. Simon King was drunk and asked the woman, "When Hua Zixu was alive, did you want to do this with him?" The woman said, "He sleeps and dreams about death every day. How can I be patient enough to do this business with him? He only does this every day. I was messing around outside, so I didn't want to get involved with him. Besides, when my husband was there, I slept in the same room with him. And I even scolded him so much." "Okay," he said, "if you want to play with him like this, you can't just kill him. Whoever is like an enemy is like medicine to the slave. Day and night, the slave just misses you." The 2 played together once, and then did it again. Next to the Yingshan service is a small square box filled with all kinds of delicate fruits. The small golden pot is filled with fine wine. From dusk, I hold a candle in my hand and play with it until the first watch. There was a loud banging on the door outside, causing Feng's mother to open the door and take a look. It turned out that it was Dan coming. Simon King said, "I told you to pick him up tomorrow. What are we doing here at night?" Yin called him in and asked him, The boy hurriedly walked to the door of the room, because Simon King and the woman were asleep and did not dare to come in. He only said outside the curtain, "Sister and brother-in-law have moved here. And there are many boxes and cages at home, and he asked me to come please Dad. Hurry up and talk about it." After hearing this, Simon King just hesitated and said, "Why are we so late? We need to go home and take a look." He quickly got up. The woman put on her clothes and made a cup of warm wine to eat with him. When I got home, I saw lights and candles in the back hall. My daughter and son-in-law were here, and there were many boxes, cages, beds and tents piled up. I was surprised at first, because I asked, "Why are we here?" Chen Jingji, the son-in-law, shouted. He bowed his head and cried. Recently in the court, Mr. Young was brought down by the officials of the Ministry of Science and Technology. After the imperial edict was issued, he was sent to Nanlao for questioning. His relatives, servants, and others were all asked to be yoked and sent to the army. Yesterday, young Jin in the mansion held an office all night. He came and told his father that he was in a panic and asked his son to stay in his father's house for a while. He then got up and went to my girl in Tokyo to find out the news. On that day, kindness will be repaid, and I dare not forget it. Simon King asked, "Does your father have a book?" Chen Jingji said, "Here is the book." He took it out of his sleeve and handed it to Simon King. Fold it open and read. It says, "Chen Hongdan, a descendant of the family, wrote the first letter to visit the in-laws of the great master Simon King. The remaining feelings will not be recounted, because the northern rebels invaded the border and seized the territory of Zhangzhou. Wang Shangshu of the Ministry of War did not send reinforcements, missed the military plan, and implicated Mr. Young in the court, so he was impeached by the Keidao officer for being too serious. The imperial edict was angry and took him to Nanlao, where he was imprisoned and interrogated together with the 3 law divisions. His relatives, servants, etc., were all sent to the army as border guards as usual. When Shang heard the news, the whole family was frightened and had nowhere to go. They sent their son and daughter away first, carrying boxes and household chores with them, and temporarily borrowed them to stay at the in-laws' house. As soon as he was born, he went to Beijing to live with his brother-in-law Zhang Shilian and asked for instructions. When the time comes for things to go smoothly, I will repay my kindness when I return home. I dare not forget it. I am sincerely afraid that there will be some sensuality in the county, and I will give birth to a child with 500 taels of silver. I will trouble my relatives to take care of the materials, and I will be able to report the news without forgetting it. Cursive writing under the lamp, no announcement. Worship again on the 20th day of Midsummer. Simon King saw this, panicked, and taught Wu Yunyang to arrange food and drinks, and take care of her daughter and son-in-law. He ordered his servants to clean the 3 rooms in the east wing in front of the hall and live with him and his wife. Pack up all the boxes, cages and items, and bring Yunyang up to the room. Chen Jingji took out his 500 taels of silver and gave it to Simon King for management and use. Simon King called Supervisor Wu, gave him 500 taels of silver, and taught him to go to the county manager's room overnight to copy and read a document and newspaper from the Tokyo trip. What language is written on the top? The military department gave Yu Wang Suzong a copy of the matter, pleading for justice and urgently punishing the traitors who had misled the country's power, so as to strengthen the army and eliminate the troubles caused by the captives. I have heard about the disasters of barbarians and which has happened since ancient times. The wolves of the Zhou dynasty, the Xiongnu of the Han dynasty, the Turks of the Tang dynasty, and the Khitan became powerful in the 5 dynasties. By the time the Song dynasty was founded, the Liao dynasty had conquered the Central Plains for a long time. However, I have never heard of a patient who does not have ED inside but has ED on the outside. As the saying goes, when frost falls, the hall bells ring. When rain falls, the pillar bases are moistened. It is inevitable to judge the class by the class. For example, if a sick man has been suffering from a long-standing illness in his stomach and heart, his vitality has disappeared internally when evil has entered from outside, and his limbs and bones are all suffering from illness. Even if Liu Bianmo can't save him, how can it last long? Today's situation is like that of a sick man, King Wu, who is extremely ill. The king is like the head of state. The ministers are like the heart and heart. and the officials are like the limbs. Your Majesty's head is arched above the 9 levels, and hundreds of officials and people are performing their duties below. If the vitality is replenished internally and the honorable guards defend externally, how can the enemy be in trouble? Today, the patient who is recruiting barbarians is none other than Kai Jing, the great scholar of the Chongzhen Palace. He originally used his talents to suppress evil and treachery, but used his talents to help those who were incorruptible and shameless. Protect Yuan. Tutors rely on profit and wealth to support themselves, hoping to maintain their position with favors, building up factions, and harboring treachery, deceiving the emperor, and slandering good people. The loyal soldiers were disintegrated by it, and the whole world was chilled by it. Together with the nobles, they gathered together into one school. He Huang, who was nearby, failed to negotiate and advocated the invasion of Liao and the internal division of 3 counties. Guoyao rebelled and sent the Jinlu to betray the alliance and move to the central plains of Pingling. These are all misleading the greatness of the country, and they are all caused by the failure of the capital. Wang Fu is greedy and rogue, and his behavior is better than that of a haiku actor. He was promoted by Meng Jing and recommended to the government, and soon he took charge of his own army. As long as he keeps his position and remains content, there is nothing he can do in the end. However, Zhang Da died in Taiyuan, and Zhang Huang was separated because of him. Now that the captives have invaded the mainland, they will take their wives and go south as a means of self-protection. Is his crime of harming the country worthy of execution? Yang Jian originally inherited the shadow of his ancestors as a dandy, and relied on his status as a favored Lingdian commander to be in charge of the army. He indulged in extramarital affairs, was treacherous and loyal, and was extremely cowardly. These 3 ministers are all entangled in cliques and deceived internally and externally. They are the poison of His Majesty's heart. Over the past few years, disasters have occurred. The capital has been lost. The army has been burdened with heavy taxes. The people have been separated. Thieves have been rampant. Barbarians have violated obedience. The wealth of the world has been exhausted, and the country's principles and disciplines have been weakened. Sin. If a minister waits for a crime and prepares officials to remonstrate with him, only to witness a treacherous minister harming the country and not report it to the emperor, he will be betraying the kindness of his father and the emperor, and he will be betraying what he has learned throughout his life. Fuqi Chen was cut off, and a group of evil criminals, such as Jing, were sent to the imperial court to show a small punishment. Some were sent to the extreme ceremony to show their killing. Some were flogged as usual. Some were thrown into the desert to ward off evil spirits. God's will can be restored. People's hearts will be happy. The country's laws will be rectified, and the troubles caused by captivity will disappear. The world is so lucky. The subjects are so lucky. According to the imperial edict, Kai Jingwu was left to assist the government. Wang Fu and Yang Jian took it and sent it to the 3 Legal Affairs Bureau, and they will ask clearly, "I will obey this." It continued that the 3 Legal Affairs Bureau will ask, and the evil party criminals Wang Fu and Yang Jian. This is if the soldiers do not do their job. They allow the captives to penetrate deeply, poison the people, lose troops and generals, and fall into the interior. They should be executed according to law. The bad deeds of his subordinates, the clerk's office, the government officials, the in-laws Dong Sheng, Lu Hu, Yang Sheng, Peng Zhuan, Han Zongren, Chen Hong, Huang Yu, Liu Sheng, Zhao Hongdao, etc. If a famous criminal is found, they will all be questioned for a month. The border guards were sent out all over the country. If Simon King didn't look at it, everything would stop. When he looked at it, he only heard a whizzing sound in his ear, and he didn't know where his soul was going. That is, the 6 leaves and liver and lungs were frightened, and the 3 hairs and 7 holes were frightened. Immediately, he hurriedly packed some gold and silver treasures to play with, packed up his luggage, called his family members Lai Bao and Lai Wang to the bedroom, and quietly gave instructions like this. The hired man went to Tokyo at night to inquire about news. There is no need to go to your father-in-law Chen's house. But he had a bad luck, so he took advantage of it and came back quickly. He gave them another 20 taels of silver. I hired a porter as early as 5 o'clock and set off for Tokyo, no problem. Simon King Tong didn't sleep all night. In the morning of the next day, he ordered Lei Zhao and Bisi to stop the garden work, and all the craftsmen went back and stopped doing it. The door is closed tightly every day, and no one in the family is allowed to go out unless there is nothing to do. Simon King just walked around the room, feeling more worried and more bored, like a spider crawling on the hot ground, forgetting about marrying Li Ping'er. Wu Yunyang saw that he was frowning and had a sad look on his face, so she could only comfort him and said, "He is doing something with his parents-in-law. Everyone has their own grievances and debts, so you don't need to worry about this." Simon King said, "What do you know? Mrs. Chen, my daughter and son-in-law have moved into our house. We have been annoyed by our neighbors a lot. As the saying goes, if the machine is not fast, the shuttle will catch the sheep and the donkey. Fight, if a villain pulls out the tree to find its roots, you and I will not be safe. It's true, if we sit at home behind closed doors, disaster will come from the sky." Here Simon King is wondering at home, so he doesn't ask any questions. It is said that Li Ping'er waited for 1 or 2 days, but there was no movement. He asked Feng's mother to come twice in a row, and the door was closed like an iron barrel. After waiting for a long time, no one's teeth came out for some reason. Seeing that on the 24th, Li Ping'er asked Feng's mother to show her face again, and invited Simon King to come over and talk. He told the door not to open and stood under the eaves of the opposite house to wait. After a while, I saw Dian coming out to drink from the horses. When he saw it, he asked, "Mother Feng, what are you doing here?" Mother Feng said, "Your second mother asked me to bring you the head. Why is there no movement? Please come over and talk to your father." Diane said, "My father has something to do for the past few days. You have to go and tell me when I come back." Mother Feng said, "Good brother, I will wait here. Here, take the to Mayan and tell your father. Are you worried about me?" Diane tied the horse down, walked inside, and said after a while, "Tell me, to Mayan, take it. Now, I'll teach you how to talk to Renayang. After a few days, my father will come out to talk to Renayang." Mother Feng kept walking over and replied to the woman's words. The woman waited for a few more days to see the end of May and the beginning of June. She thought about it day and night, but there was no news at all. Her dream and soul were exhausted, and the good times were blocked. Exactly, if you are too lazy to sweep your eyebrows, you will be too shy to even out your pink face. Full of hatred and haggard spirit, the woman was looking forward to not seeing Simon King come. So every day she had less food and tea, and she was in a daze. In the evening, I sleep alone on the pillow and hesitate. Suddenly I heard the door knocking outside, and I seemed to see Simon King coming. The woman greeted him with a smile, entered the room hand in hand, asked him about breaking the appointment, and each expressed his heartfelt words. "Be thoughtful and have fun all night long." When the rooster crows at dawn, he withdraws and goes back. The woman suddenly woke up and shouted loudly, losing her spirit. Feng's mother heard this and hurriedly came into the room to take a look. The woman said, "Simon's father went out just now? Did you close the door?" Mother Feng said, "Madam, I am obsessed with thinking. Where are the high-ranking officials coming? There are no traces." From then on, the woman's dreams followed evil spirits. Every night there is a fox with a false name and surname, capturing its essence. Gradually, he became thinner, couldn't eat enough, and became bedridden. Mother Feng told the woman that she had invited Zhang Zhushan from the main street to come and see her. He is less than 30 years old, with a short stature, an elegant character, and is extremely frivolous, arrogant and deceitful. Please enter the bedroom. The woman has misty hair and a cloudy hair. She is lying in a quilt, as if she is extremely sad. The tea and soup were finished, and the maid placed the mattress. Zhushan went to bed and checked her pulse. Seeing that the woman was pretty, he opened his mouth and said, "It's time for the student to diagnose the cause of the disease. My wife's liver pulse is stringy and enlarged when it comes out of the kunku. Her Julian pulse comes out of the kunku and goes up to the thenner for a long time. It is caused by 6 desires and 7 emotions. The yin and yang are at odds with each other, sometimes cold and sometimes hot. And it seems to be stagnant but not malaria, like cold but not cold. During the day, it is tired and sleepy, and the energy is short. At night, the spirit is not there, and the dream is like ghosts. If it is not cured early, it will turn into a bone disease, and it will be a pity." "What a pity," the woman said. "Mr. Yulei, please give me a good medicine. I will give you a big reward. Students are all careful. If your wife takes my medicine, she will be safe." After saying that, he stood up. "The medicine gold and 5 stars are given here, so that Feng's mother asks for the medicine." The woman took the medicine at night and fell asleep at night without panic. Gradually he ate more, got up, combed his hair and walked around. After a few days, the spirit returns to its original state. One day, a feast of wine and food was prepared, and 3 taels of silver were prepared, so that Madame Feng invited Jushin to come and thank him. Zhang Jushin had been coveting the woman for a long time since he saw her. As soon as he heard the invitation, he dressed up and went. The woman came out in full dress and greeted him. After 2 changes of tea, she invited him to the room. The wine and food were ready, and the musk and orchid fragrance was fragrant. The little maid Shu Chun was beside her, and she took out 3 taels of white gold from the gold-painted plate. The woman held up the jade cup, bowed forward, and said, "The day before yesterday, I was in a bad mood, and you gave me a good medicine, which worked. Now I have prepared a cup of water and wine, and I invited you to come and thank you, sir." Jushin said, "This is my job, and I should take care of it. Why bother about it?" Seeing the 3 taels of thank you gift, he said, "How dare I accept this?" The woman said, "It's just a small gift. Not polite. I hope you will accept it." After refusing for a long time, Jushin finally accepted it. The woman handed over the wine and sat down. After 3 rounds of drinking, Jushin stole a glance at the woman. She was as beautiful as a jade, and she was stunningly beautiful. He first used words to tease her, and said, "I dare not ask. How young are you?" The woman said, "I wasted my 20 for years." Jushin said, "You are so young, grew up in a secluded place, and are rich. What can you do? Why did you have this depression and insufficiency disease the other day?" The woman smiled and said, "To be honest, sir, my husband passed away, my family was in trouble, and I was alone. I was worried, so how could I not be sick?" Jushin said, "Originally, madam, your husband has passed away. How long has it been?" The woman said, "My husband died of typhoid fever in November last year. It has been 8 months now." Jushin said, "Whose medicine did he take?" The woman said, "Mr. Hu on the street." Jushin said, "Is it Hu Guizui who lives in the house of Liu Taijian on East Street? He is not from our Imperial Hospital. How can he know the pulse? Why did you ask him to come?" The woman said, "It was because the neighbors recommended him to come and see. My husband is dead. It has nothing to do with him." Jushin said again, "Madam, you are also a doctor. Do you have any children?" The woman said, "No children at all." Jushin said, "It's a pity that you are still a widow at such a young age, and you have no children. Why don't you find another way to make a living? If you are willing to be depressed, won't you get sick?" The woman said, "I have been talking about marriage recently, and I will marry sooner or later." Jushin asked, "Who are you going to marry?" The woman said, "It's Simon Dogwin, who runs a herbal medicine shop in front of the county." Jushin heard it and said, "How miserable! How miserable! Why did you marry him? I often see him at his house, and I know him best. This man is a man who talks a lot in the county, lends money privately, and sells people. He has 5 or 6 wives, big and small, not counting the maids at home. He beats them with sticks and asks the matchmaker to sell them if he is not satisfied with them. He is the leader of beating wives and cheating women. My wife told me long ago that if she enters his house, she will be like a moth to a flame. He will cheat her and you will regret it till late. Besides, his in-laws have been involved in some trouble recently and they can't get out of their house. They have abandoned the half-built house. The Tokyo Customs has sent a letter to arrest him in the prefecture and county. If he builds this house tomorrow, it will probably be confiscated by the government. Why did my wife marry him for no reason?" This sentence made the woman speechless. Besides, there were many things left at his house. After thinking for a while, he secretly stamped his feet and said, "I blame him for not coming after I invited him again and again. His family is in trouble." He saw Jushin's words and actions were very humble. "It would be fine if I could marry such a person tomorrow, but I wonder if he has a wife." So he said, Since you have given me your advice, I am very grateful. If there is a family I know well, please recommend me, and I will have no reason not to comply. Jushin took the opportunity to ask, "What kind of family do you want? I want to know the truth, so I can come here and tell you." The woman said, "It doesn't matter if the family is big or small, as long as it is someone like you." Zhang Jushin would have been fine if he didn't want to listen. After hearing this, he was so happy that he didn't know where to scratch. He hurriedly got down from the table, knelt on his knees and said, "To be honest with you, my wife, I have no help in the back room, no one to do the housework, and I have been a widower for a long time without any children. If you have pity on me, I would like to marry you. Fate is full of wishes in life. Last year, Jing's wife was late, and her family was poor, and she was really cold. The lady is like a student's rebirth of her parents, and then her father and mother. There is a fate in the world, and the 3 lives are lucky." One side handed a glass of wine in the room, which has become a relationship. The woman discussed with Feng Mama and said, "Simon King's behavior is so bad that it is hard to predict whether he will be good or bad. Besides, I have no one here. If something goes wrong, I will almost lose my life. For now, why not invite this gentleman in?" The next day, she asked Feng Mama to send a letter to choose a good day on June 18th to invite Zhang Jushin in and make him husband and wife. After 3 days, the woman collected 300 taels of silver and opened 2 storefronts with Jushin. The store was completely renovated. At first, she just went to see a doctor, but later she bought a donkey and rode it on the street. It is just like a pool of stagnant water has no waves, but it will also sway in the spring breeze.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.